Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everybody is doing well. I got on here because normally I would do something like a motivational Tuesday, and I'm actually doing a live specifically. Um, this is the season to reach out. And as you reach out, you're going to be surprised the great impact of you reaching out. That how much joy and how much courage and strength that you're going to bring to someone just simply by you reaching out. We all we got, we all we need. We do unto others that we would have done unto ourselves. And I know it's a lot of stuff going on. So it's a lot of stuff going on, but we need to put some things into proper perspective for a moment. There are a lot of movements that are fighting the principalities. Because face it, y'all, white supremacy, racism, bigotry, those are principalities. Those are just like all other. Those are just like all other demonic spirits. There's a lot of momentum. Some people are like, there's too many people that's supporting the Black Lives Matter movement. It's too many people that's not addressing the issues within the communities. And I want to share this with y'all real quick. There's something called being socially engineered. It's a tactic that's often used in media, mainstream media. And when we are socially engineered, what ends up happening is oftentimes when there's controversy, there's a tactic of an element that they use to replay something over and over again. Y'all ever seen that? And I have seen it. I have witnessed it. I have actually discovered this tactic. I've discovered it in the realm of social media because unfortunately negativity sells. We see that negativity sells at large. We see that negativity sells at an all-time high. Negativity sells. Unfortunately, that's the society and the world that we live in. I want to add this though, because yes, we're seeing a lot of people, talk about the Black Lives Matter movement. We've seen it, and I'm the individual that has an agenda that approaches and that addresses all injustices. So I'm not just an individual that just concentrates on police brutality. I'm an individual that focuses on injustice at large. Particularly, two things that really rub my heart a certain kind of way is the way that disabled people are treated and how they're overlooked, and the homeless. Once because I used to be homeless, and secondly, yes, I too do have a disability myself, and so this kind of just resonates with me a little bit, So we start talking about the movement shouldn't be about fighting against police brutality. Yes, it should, because we don't want to justify. We don't need to be justifying injustice. My saying is this. In psychology, they have something called chambers and systems. Meaning that, say for example, I have a cavity, right? I have a cavity and I have a headache. But if I just focus on the cavity and I don't address the headache, that's not really helping that issue, that's not really helping me to recover successfully. And so what I'm saying is this. When we think about the whole sphere of things, yes, I want to tell you guys right now that be careful about what we watch in the media, because the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And what the enemy does is that he'll try to create this realm of things to get us to be in a tangent, to get us to be at war with each other a lot. And if we're not careful about how and what we allow to get into our spirits, y'all know I did about 2 months ago, I talked about keeping things at a balance, doing things in moderation, and not allowing the wave of the news and the media outlets, because the media outlets wants us to say, you know what, there's no hope for the black race. The media wants us to look at the black culture and say there's no hope for the black culture. Oh yeah, I know that this sounds very different, it sounds very unique, but that is what the trick of the enemy is trying to do. The trick of the enemy is trying to get us to hate your own body. He's trying to get you to hate your own color of your skin. He's trying to get you to hate you, and better yet, he's trying to invoke hate in us, because that is, when we look at white supremacy, when we look at these bigots, when we look at bigotry, at the realm of this stuff, at the very forefront of this stuff stems from hatred. When you kill somebody, that comes from a form of hatred. That comes from a form of disrespect. A disrespect because you don't have self-love for yourself. You're not doing unto others as you would have done unto you. So you have a self-hate. And so we got to be careful that we don't subject ourselves to fall to the ways of the enemy, to fall to the ways of the devil, because that's what the enemy is trying to do. He's trying to invoke that in us to get us to stop fighting, to stop speaking out. I've been hearing a lot of people at large, some Christians, some not so Christian, and say, well, just give it to God. And God said, God, we were created to take dominion in the earth. We were created to be a manifestation of who he is. What is the scripture I have for that? Go read the book of Romans chapter 8, where it talks about how the earth moans and groans, how that the earth travails, and that we, the sons and daughters, are called to be the manifestation of who he is in the earth. Most of us, when we look and we hear that scripture and we think about that scripture, we only think that only involves us just sitting down and on our knees and praying. If we go back and we look at James, you know what I'm saying, where it said, don't be a hearer of the word, but be a doer. We've got to turn our faith into action. We got to be able to look bigotry in his face and call it for what it is. It is a demon. It is a demon that does not deserve to be treated well. We see injustices that happen. We should feel compelled to speak out and correct it. All injustices, whether it be if it's my black brother killing somebody else, whether not only just with the physical killing. Some of us do the killing with our lips. We call each other's, we label each other, you dumb, you stupid, you dummy. Those are degrading terms that's filled by the same hatred. That's filled by hate. That's filled by hate. If you have the boldness to call somebody a nigga, and you don't have a level of understanding of how much denigration that is, you're being used by the enemy. You're being used by the enemy. You're being used by enemy. When we use terms that reference people as dogs, I'm not going to say what that term is. I'm pretty sure the Facebook Live audience knows what I'm talking about, because I know in retrospect that I have some respect for my older individuals on my live, so I won't say the word, but we know the word that's often used. The enemy has inflicted that term as a term of endearment. Well, that's my dog. And we know we don't actually say that's my dog. We actually use the real word. Okay? We got to do better. I want to say this before I close out. Is that, yes, we can step up on both ends. It's nothing wrong with nobody fighting against police brutality. Yes, should we all step it up to the plate and hold each other accountable for what goes on in our community? Yes. That's at large. That's in the Christian community, outside the Christian community. That should be going without saying across the board. We can all do better. During COVID-19, have you picked the phone up and actually reached out to people, not just to your family, but to actual friends, to actual those who've been going through COVID-19? Have we just picked up? And see, in the beginning of this live, I talked about motivational, right? And I said you're going to be surprised that as you reach out, how much of that great impact that's going to happen, that's going to come forth by you picking up the phone. Pick the phone up. I'm telling you something right now. Pick the phone up. You see this face right here? Yes, I may get on the front lines. I may preach. I may do motivational videos. I may do photography. I may do media. I may do all these things. But guess what? I need just as much as encouragement, because the fight for the road for injustice, it's not an easy fight, y'all. So pick that phone up. Hey, I ain't gonna be with you too long. Hey, I hope all is well. Boom. You don't understand, that goes a long way. Reach out. As you reach out, you reaching out is actually literally helping the momentum and keep the momentum of the movement go forth. Reach out to someone. Reach out to you. You know you have community organizers. You know you have community activists in the community. Reach out. You know it's people. Some of us are sitting down on the couch. We haven't been out. We haven't been out to any rallies. We haven't been out to any protests. But you know what you can do? Say, hey, reach out. Say, hey, you well, you good? I'm not saying you got to do anything drastic, but it can be something small. You can cash app somebody, say, hey, I can't be there at the march, but look, let me drop $2. Let me drop $5. At least you can get yourself something to drink or something to eat. Reaching out, it doesn't take a whole lot of money. It doesn't take a whole. It really doesn't cost you nothing to be move with compassion and concern for your brother and for your sister. And I'm talking about, when I say brother and sister, I'm not talking about your biological brother and sister. I'm talking about your brother and your sister, your next door neighbor, the people that you live with right in your household. When you go out your front door, the people next door, that young man or that young lady you might see. I don't know what's going on with this phone. That you might see, in the store. Reach out. There are people that are fighting on both ends of the stick. And some of it is not mainstream. I'm not even going to say some of it. A lot of it is not mainstream. But there's some folks I know specifically. That are literally on the front lines doing works behind the scenes. They mentoring children. They mentoring youth. It's some youth you're probably not going to see me on live. You're probably not going to see me on live on Facebook with them. But it doesn't negate that the work is not going on. So it's a lot of people saying there's nobody on the front lines to talk about, what's happening in the black communities. Yes, it is. It's just not mainstream. I have a rally going on July the 14th. And I challenge every person out there. It's on my profile. I don't have to drop it in the comments. It's all on my profile. I have a rally with a very good dear general, someone who I really aspired to really be like, to continue to be like. She's out for the cause for injustice, for empowering people, and that's Pastor Ann Coles. The second, and so we got some great work that we trying to do in the community, building our black men up, building our black women up, letting people know that, hey, Black Lives Matter, they matter to us too. We got to stop this killing. We got to stop these guns. We got to stop with this violence. We got to stop. We got to create, I'm in the process of right now trying to create a platform to actually say, hey, what's going on? Men hash it out. I'm looking for a boxing ring, get some boxing gloves, and hit the pad. Sometimes we gotta hit the pad. Sometimes, men, we gotta hit the pad. You know what I'm saying? We may not necessarily want to talk to nobody, but we might have to hit that gym. You know what I'm saying? We might have to pull some 50-pound weights, 85-pound weights. You know what I'm saying? Or a bench press. You know what I'm saying? That we gotta talk about these kind of things. What's it gonna take for us as men to be able to get a release? You know what I'm saying? We just gotta do better. You know what I'm saying? We just gotta do better. Let me tell y'all something. And I know a lot of people that say, man, you ministering, but listen, no leader that was ever used by God was exempt from having issues. Kenneth Clark said it. Pastor and minister at all. Some of the most greatest people that God ever used were some of the most people that had some of the greatest issues. If you don't believe me, go read about King David. God called him a man after his own heart. And even though he called him a man after his own heart, what did he tell him? He said there was going to be a snare in his family because of all the different stuff that he did. I'm not going to be one of these pastors and these preachers, these ministers is going to tell you that I got everything right, because none of us have it going right. I'm going to be honest with you to tell you I don't always have the answers. I don't always have the resolution for stuff. The only thing that I have is faith. My faith, prayer, and action. That's it. My faith, prayer, and action. I believe the reason why the Apostle Paul's ministry was so effective. Now watch this, because he was not of the actual first elite of the apostles that was chosen, but this man still did great dynamic work. He has this saying. I can't remember the exact scripture that it's in, but he said daily he pressed toward the mark of the high calling. He said daily, 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 which meant that it was a continual thing, that it wasn't a one-time thing. And so, yeah, I always ask people, pray for me, because today I want to cuss some folks out. I feel like I want to cuss some folks out, or my flesh wants to rise up. See, I'm real about my issues. I'm not going to sit here and try to dust stuff off and wipe stuff off and act like and tell you I got everything going on. I don't. None of us have it going on. That's what makes faith so great. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, yet for the things to be seen. And so daily is a thing where we continue to work this thing out. Some days are worse than others. Some days are better than others. But guess what? Always know the sign of your greatness for the fulfillment of your calling comes great opposition. And what I have learned probably within these past year or so, the opposition that's going to come. The opposition from the trick of the enemy to tell you, you ain't nobody, you can't do it. See, that's the trick of the enemy. And see, I'm giving it to you straight, raw, uncut, unfiltered, because this is the type of talk that we need to have. You know, everybody want to talk about this thing about, you know, this praying thing. But the more and more that I've been reading the Bible, there were some folks that God used, and the greatest way that he used them was right in the midst of their weakness. Was right in the midst of their weakness. Right in the midst of their weakness. And so, you know, people say, oh, well, you said it's a war on the human race. It is a war on the human race. It is a war on the human race. Because contrary to popular belief, I don't understand if many actually know. I interned for Department of Social Services, right, in Maryland. I won't say where in particular where I interned at. But I remember specifically that when I was working right behind the director, and I was sitting right at the desk, and there was someone from the Adult Protective Services, right? And there was a conversation that was going on in the booth, because the main brother, who happens to still be my mentor today, we had desks side by side each other. And there was a conversation going on where individuals like, you know, we have a lot of stuff that's going on as it relates to the violence within the black community. And the lady from the Adult Protective Services, she was a Caucasian lady, right? And what got me to open my ears. This is what she said. She said, I want you two gentlemen. I want you two gentlemen to hear this. She said the same issues that's going on within the black community, we have those issues going on in our community. She said we have the crack gang. She said we got the heroin. She said we have the opioids. She said, so please, I understand. She said, I understand that it may be there's a lot of truth to how individuals within the black community, to how they get support services. But she said, please, I need you guys to continue your realm of work, because I need men like you to be able to go to my white community and be able to help them deal with their drug addictions, deal with their hostility issues, and deal with their manhood issues. And this lady was like 62 years of age, Caucasian lady. I was like, what? And when she said that, me and my homeboy, we both looked at each other and was like, wow. Wow. And so I know what the enemy is doing in this hour. I'm going to tell you what the enemy is doing. The enemy is trying to use every negative thing to make male and female not walk in their purpose, not walk in their identity, not be the man or woman of God that they've been called to be. And when I say man and woman of God, for them to be called, I'm not talking about man and women of God for them to only be called to be preaching. Because there are so many different, we got to get out of that umbrella too. Because when we talk about called, God has created us to be successful. That's why he say in his word, see, I'm giving y'all word, and I don't know how many of y'all even catching it. But God said that he desired that our soul prosper, that we be prosperous in everything. And so it's God's will for us to be prosperous in all our endeavors, both in ministry and both outside of ministry. He wants you to be successful in your academics. Whether it be your associates, bachelor's, master's, doctorates, PhDs, he wants you to obtain that wisdom. Because he said we to be wiser than a serpent. Uh-oh. And we got to get out of this other thing too, that we think The only wisdom that we can obtain is only the wisdom that come across from the pulpit. No, that's not the only wisdom that we should only be seeking after. I'm not saying that the wisdom that comes across the pulpit should not be something that we should not be striving after. What I'm saying is that wisdom should not be the only thing that we should be striving after. Because wisdom now, y'all, wisdom now comes from God. Don't believe me? Go back in the Bible. A lot of kings. There were a lot of scholars. A lot of kings. Solomon, Paul. There were a lot of scholars. A lot of scholars, y'all. A lot of scholars. So don't just think that it's only people out here only on the front lines fighting police brutality, because it's not. That's it's a lot of stuff going on behind closed doors. We got teachers working in the classrooms, mentoring kids. Some teachers I know of have almost like adopted these kids, still mentoring them, still doing great stuff. Don't get caught up in the trick of the enemy. Because the enemy wants you to think, that your race and your culture, that there's no hope. That is a trick before the enemy. Listen, I praise God to every person that's fighting the cause for everything. Because it's a cause. I'm telling you, there's so many causes and awarenesses out there. The list goes on, and there's a realm, there's a leg. My mentor tells me all the time, he said, there's always a leg for somebody to put their hands to. There's always a leg out there for somebody to put their hands to. It's always a leg. And I learned that when I was working at the Department of Social Services. What's good, brother? What's good, man? Because most in that, it's funny, when I worked at the Department of Social Services, most people always only associate the Department of Social Services with welfare. It's not rightfully so. It's so many different aspects, so many different elements when we talk about Department of Social Services beyond welfare. It's connecting families. It's connecting families to resources within the community. I know I used to be one of the intake specialists to connect families to making sure our senior citizens were getting the Meals on Wheels, getting them plugged into, making sure that they were able to get plugged into with a clinical social worker, and even at the time when I was there, there was a reference to we even had a mentor program, a mentorship program that I used to be a part of. So it's so many great things going on, y'all, that we can't get focused. And I'm telling everybody like this. Let me tell y'all something. Politicians are great. I don't take nothing away from what they do. They're great. I don't. I understand that they're there for a reason. Like I said, in psychology, there's something called chambers and systems. I get it. But don't get caught up on these daggone parties that you, at the end of the day, forget human. And that you only base your level of knowledge based upon only what they say. Get involved. I challenged somebody the other day. I said, man, you'd be surprised if you just got in the car and you just rode around your block and you just looked. And I'm telling you, you would be able to see something that you could help change and make better. I say it all the time. We are the change that we want to see. Because greater is He that is within us than he that is in the world. So my question to you today is, how are you using that greatness? Are you using that greatness to demonize others, to discourage others? Or are you using that greatness to uplift others? Because this is the season of greatness. Not because of some slogan. See, the Bible already said that there was greatness inside of us. 1 John 4:4. And that's without a political campaign. And no, I ain't trying to take hits. I'm just stating the true facts. That we've been called for greatness. And that all of us can do better than what we're doing. Myself included. I'm not one of, like I said, I'm not one of these leaders to tell you I got everything right. Every day I'm learning. I'm learning just like Paul said. Paul said he pressed daily. That while I was just reading about Paul. Paul was a man. That brother was powerful. That brother was powerful. That man was locked up in prison, still running churches, still getting stuff done, getting out letters. That man was, he was powerful. And though he was powerful, guess what? Thorn in the flesh. Most of us got a thorn in our flesh. And I believe the reason why most of us have a thorn in our flesh is because that is what keeps us motivated. And that thorn that we all may have is a motivation to let us know why we need faith. Why we have to wake up in the morning, wake up in the evening, wake up, and say, God, give me the strength. Give me the strength to do what's right. If this live blessed you, I ain't asking for no donation. I ain't asking for no cash app. I ain't about to ask you to give anything. Just share the live. And I hope and pray that this bless somebody. Y'all stay blessed. Pray. Hear God. Hear God. Pray. Act. What I just say? Hear God. Act. And pray. Because we can't just pray. Can't just pray without hearing God. And you can't hear without seeking God. So after you hear God, act. Don't fall into that trick now, because the enemy is telling us that. He's been telling us that. But God gave us the power. He gave us the rule and the power to domain in the earth. He said subdue. I know most people only thought subduing only meant to multiply, to make babies. That's not the only subduing that he was talking about. Because he made man in his image. Oh! I'm going to close out on that one. Y'all be blessed and less stress. Y'all keep faith alive. All right, peace.